A billionaire walks into a diner and freezes his waitress as his long-lost school friend. But what he does next will leave everyone speechless. Like, share, and subscribe for the full, unbelievable story. The clinking of cutlery and the low hum of chatter filled the upscale restaurant. James Whitmore, billionaire CEO of Whitmore Innovations, was seated in a private corner, halfway through a business lunch. His attention was on the investment documents till a familiar voice caught his ear. He looked up and froze. Carrying a tray with quiet grace was Emma Carter, the girl who had been his best friend in high school. Back then, she was the one who helped him study for math tests and defended him from bullies when he was the awkward, shy kid. They'd lost touch after graduation. She wore a neat but faded waitress uniform, her hair tied back, smile polite but weary. There was no spark of the mischievous girl he once knew when she noticed him. Her eyes widened, then quickly dropped to the floor. She turned to leave, but James stood up. "Emma," he said. She hesitated. "James, I didn't think you'd remember me." They exchanged a few awkward words, but James could sense her discomfort. Still, he noticed her hand trembled slightly as she set down a customer's drink. The manager barked orders at her, and James saw her flinch. Something wasn't right. When the lunch ended, instead of leaving, James asked her to join him. She refused at first. She was still on her shift, but then he quietly slipped something to the manager. Moments later, she was given an early break. Over coffee, he learned the truth. Her mother had fallen ill years ago. Medical bills drained their savings, and Emma had been working multiple jobs just to stay afloat. College had been abandoned, dreams put on hold. James listened in silence, but inside, he was already making a decision. The next morning, Emma received a call from a prestigious university's admissions office. Her application had been reactivated, and a full scholarship was waiting for her. Later that day, her manager handed her an envelope containing her last paycheck and a notice her resignation letter had been signed by her on behalf. But with a golden note, "You're free now." JWL outside, a sleek black car waited. James stepped out, holding out an old photo of them at prom, her in a blue dress, him in a crooked bow tie. "I owed you for saving me back then," he said. "Now let me return the favor." Tears welled in her eyes as she realized this wasn't charity. It was friendship coming full circle. And for the first time in years, Emma smiled the way she used to. James Whitmore had grown used to luxury penthouse suites, private jets, tailored suits worth more than most people's cars, but no amount of wealth could erase the memories of his small-town high school days, especially the ones that involved Emma Carter. She was the girl who always carried extra pencils because James kept losing his bait, the girl who taught him how to dance for prom, so he wouldn't embarrass himself, the one who told him he could be someone big when nobody else believed in him. That was 15 years ago. On a cloudy Tuesday afternoon, James stepped into the Silver Fork, a mid-tier restaurant his business partner had insisted on. He didn't expect anything memorable. He caught a flash of familiar brown hair tied back in a messy bun. She was balancing 3 plates on one arm, moving between tables with practiced efficiency. Her uniform was neatly pressed, but her shoes were worn. A tiny scar above her eyebrow. He remembered that scar. She got it when she fell during gym class, and he'd rushed her to the nurse's office. "Emma," he called softly. Her head snapped toward him, eyes wide. Recognition flared, then quickly dimmed, replaced by a guarded look. "James Whitmore?" she asked, her voice hesitant. In the flesh, he smiled. "It's been a long time." Before he could say more, her manager barked at her from the counter. She excused herself with a polite nod, but he didn't miss the faint limp in her step. James stayed long after lunch was over, pretending to go over reports. He watched her handle rude customers with grace, absorb her manager's harsh tone without a single complaint, and force a smile that didn't reach her eyes. When she finally had a moment to breathe, he asked if she could sit with him. She refused. Company rules. But James had never been one for rules. He walked to the counter, pulled out his black card, and told the manager, "I'll take care of her shift, whatever it costs." 15 minutes later, she sat across from him, coffee in hand, looking both suspicious and curious. "Talk to me, Emma," he said gently. Her story came out in pieces. Her mother's cancer diagnosis, dropping out of college to work. 2 jobs, sometimes 3. Medical bills swallowing every cent. She had no time for dreams, no time for herself. James listened without interrupting. In the world of billionaires, people often told him things for money, but this was raw truth. When they parted, she thought that was it, just a brief reunion. But the very next morning, Emma's phone rang. The caller was from Riverside University, informing her that her academic file had been reactivated, her tuition fully covered by a private benefactor. Confused, she went to work only to find her final paycheck in an envelope, along with a simple note, "You're free now." JW outside, a black Rolls-Royce was parked. James stepped out in a gray suit, holding something behind his back. He handed it to her, a framed photo of their prom night. "You told me once I'd be someone big," he said, his voice warm. "You were right. And now, it's my turn to make sure you get to be someone big, too." Emma's eyes brimmed with tears. "James, I don't know what to say then, just say yes," he smiled. "Yes to a future that's yours again." For the first time in years, Emma felt light, as if the weight of the world had been lifted, and James knew, in that moment, he wasn't just repaying an old debt. He was giving his oldest friend her life back. James Whitmore stepped into the Silver Fork reluctantly. It wasn't the kind of place he usually visited. The booths were worn from years of use, the lighting was dim, and the air smelled faintly of coffee and fried food. But his business partner had sworn they made the best pie in the state. And James had learned long ago to let people win small arguments. He didn't expect his past to be waiting there. The restaurant was half full, and the soft murmur of conversations filled the air. James scanned the menu without much interest, until a voice stopped him cold. It wasn't loud, just a simple, polite tone saying, "Your burger will be right out, sir." But it was a voice that pulled him straight back to a dusty high school hallway 15 years ago. He looked up. Emma Carter. Her hair was shorter now, pulled into a neat bun. She wore a faded waitress uniform, the collar slightly frayed. She moved quickly between tables, but there was a stiffness in her left leg, like she was hiding an old injury. Back then, Emma had been the person in his corner. She was the girl who slipped him notes in math class, who told him to ignore the bullies calling him poor James. When his father lost his job, she'd shown up at his house with 2 bags of groceries. She even made him a paper crown for his 18th birthday, because he'd told her, jokingly, he'd be a king one day. And now, she was here, refilling coffee cups for strangers. He called her name quietly, Emma. She froze mid-step, turned, and for a split second, her eyes lit up in recognition. But just as quickly, the light dimmed. "James Whitmore," she said softly, like it was a name she hadn't said in years. He smiled. "I can't believe it's you." Her lips curved upward politely, but it wasn't the grin he remembered. "It's been a long time." Before he could say more, a gruff voice barked from the counter. "Emma, table 6 is waiting." She nodded, excused herself, and hurried away. James watched her the rest of his lunch. She moved like someone carrying an invisible weight, smiling at customers, apologizing for things that weren't her fault, taking sharp words from the manager without reaction. When she passed his table again, he asked, "Can you take a break? I'd like to catch up." She shook her head. "Can't. It's a double shift." James didn't argue. He simply walked up to the counter, pulled out his black card, and told the manager, "I'm buying her next hour, whatever it costs." Minutes later, She was sitting across from him, hands wrapped around a chipped coffee mug. He asked about her life, and the story came spilling out. Her mom had gotten sick right after high school. Cancer. The medical bills had swallowed their savings. Emma had dropped out of college to work full-time. Then came the recession, her mom's passing, and the reality that her own dreams had been shelved indefinitely. "Why didn't you ever call me?" James asked quietly. "You were already doing big things," she said with a shrug, "and I didn't want to be the friend asking for help." They talked until her break was up. When she left, James didn't stop her, but his mind was already working. The next morning Ma was getting ready for another long shift when her phone rang. The caller introduced themselves from Riverside University. "Miss Carter," the voice said, "your application from years ago has been reactivated, and a full scholarship has been awarded to you. Tuition, housing, books, all covered. You can start next semester." Emma was speechless. "There must be some mistake." "No mistake," the woman said cheerfully. "The donor requested anonymity, but they made it clear. It's time. You chased your dreams." Confused and overwhelmed, Emma went to work anyway. But when she arrived, her manager handed her an envelope. Inside was her last paycheck, and a note on thick ivory paper.